Hello world, hello world. My name is Dave Mate. I go by Dave Mate now. My name is David Askarione, my full name, but I go by Dave Mate because I drink a lot of yerba mate tea. Um, I guess you could say I'm one of the foremost experts on this tea on the planet Earth. So you may be seeing me drink a lot of this stuff throughout these videos, but the crux of these videos will be this is my introductory video uh, to speak about AI. And I'm going to be drinking a lot of yerba mate. So here it is. I'll tell you guys what it is real quickly, but not to go too deep. It's a holly plant from South America. Over 100 million people drink it a day. Gives you energy, clarity, no crashing effects like coffee. If you want to research it more, you could go to my website, circleadrink.com, where that's one of my projects we'll be talking about. Salud. Okay, so my name is Dave Mate. And the first thing I want to be very clear with, I am not a developer. I am not an engineer. I have no degrees in software and engineering, in website development, technology development. I have no degrees. Everything that I do know and that I will express is predominantly things that I've learned on my own, or I've learned from working with developers for the past 10, 12 years. I've been working with them, usually through hiring them to build things for me. But as I am hiring them, I'm asking them questions, a million questions, and they're gladly explaining things to me. And then I'm spending hours and months and years researching them on my own, trying to grasp these concepts. So many things that I'll be speaking about are things that I haven't even fully crystallized in my mind. I'm still learning. Um, so I just want to make myself very clear. I am not a developer. I'm not an engineer. I am just someone learning and teaching myself things. Yes, I do run a seven-figure business. I've been running a seven-figure business for many years, all technology based, I guess you could say. They're all websites. I ship things online. I ship food. I ship tea. I ship drinks. I ship all sorts of foods and teas online. I have two brands. One of them is circleadrink.com, and one of them is noblecrunch.com. Noble Crunch is my snack branch, and Circle of Drink is my tea branch where we sell the tea. And like I said, I happen to be an expert on this tea. I wrote the first book in English on the topic, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. So I'm an entrepreneur. I do a lot of different things. I started off selling things on eBay when I was a teenager. I'm 42 years old now, but when I was 15 or 14, I think that was my first internet business, selling mechanical parts online, buying them from yard sales. Then I kind of transitioned into books, buying used books, selling used books. And then during college, I went to college in Manhattan, Pace University. I built a website that allowed students to sell notes to other students. Didn't really work that well. I spent a lot of money hiring developers at that time. I didn't know what I was doing, so they kind of bled me out. I had to spend a lot of money. Sold my car. Maybe I'll go into that story back in what happened back then. But suffice it to say, that was the experiment that got me into really focusing on the web and learning about the web, just learning on my own. I dabbled in websites, like building websites for people, usually through building a team of developers who I would contract, and I would be kind of like the project manager. Technically, I was even a project manager for a company at one point in downtown Manhattan just for several months. And then after that, I started a couple series of websites around health. One was called screwtips.com, another was called mindpedals.com. Those websites, they did okay. I sold some advertisements on them that allowed me to travel the world for like 10, 15 years. I was living in South America. They did all right, those websites. They were bringing in some revenue. So suffice it to say, my entire life, my only job has been building things online, mostly through hiring people to help me. I would come up with the ideas, then I would bring in the designer, I would bring in the engineers, I would bring in the marketing people. To a lot to a great degree of what I still do now. So that's my resume. My entire life, I've just been selling things online, designing things, bringing in designers. That's all I've ever done. I've never had any other job. The longest job I've ever had outside of that was a project developer for 3 months. And then I think I got fired, actually. Yeah, I think I actually did get fired from that job because I just wasn't interested. I was using that job to fund one of my websites at the time, mindpedals.com. So that was my longest job outside of tech, and I say tech just like how I described it, me building websites, me coming up with ideas on how to do things online. That's all I've done my entire life. That's all I do now. So that's my resume. I want that to be very clear. I'm not trying to come off as an expert in any sort of technology because I'm not. So now that we got that out of the way, now I think we can move forward because this video is a foundational video that I'm sure that I'm going to have to link people to many times when they're like, you don't know what you're talking about, or this or that and this, and what do you mean? Like, you're talking about tech and you were totally wrong when you were talking about setting up a Neon database, and you were totally wrong about WordPress or Shopify. Hey, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I am wrong. I don't know. Like I said, everything that I know, I taught myself. So I'll let you determine how far I've gotten and how well I'm doing as I'm on this journey, sharing it with you. One of the impetuses of me making these videos is for me to learn, because by talking about what I'm learning, I'm going to learn. And there's going to be many people who say, Dave, you know what? You're thinking about that architecture right. You're thinking about setting up a NAS system correctly, connected to a Mac Mini, and then doing cold storage with Backblaze and storing objects in R2. Yeah, you're thinking about that right, but you're not quite understanding how network boundaries work. Let me help you out, Dave. And that's how I've learned my entire life, by people who are much smarter than myself. Whether I'm paying them or not, they're helping me out by teaching me, educating me. That has happened with me my entire life, whether it's with doctors, architects, engineers, designers, physicists. They've all helped me out because I just asked. And I wasn't afraid to look dumb, to sound dumb. This is how I learned 2 languages, sounding dumb, apart from English, 2 other languages, living in South America. Just sounding dumb, people laughing at me, but I don't care because that's how you learn. The same logic applies to what we're going to be talking about, AI. The thrust of these videos will be something I'm totally excited about, and I think this is the next frontier of my enterprise, the next frontier of my entrepreneurial journey. It's all going to be about AI for me moving forward. Yes, I'm still going to keep my other companies. I'm still going to run them. That's the bread and butter for now. That's great. That's where the passion is too. But I can already see what's happening. Everything's moving towards this AI. Now, let me tell you where I stand in AI. And this is just an introductory video. Maybe I'm only going to speak for 10, 15 more minutes. Who knows? The future of AI is bright. It's very bright. Let's start with vibe coding. What is vibe coding? Let's take one step back. Okay, so you have the traditional engineers, people who they have CS degrees, they're product engineers, they're front-end designers, they know code, they know back-end, they know the full stack. These are the quote-unquote, full stack engineers. They know everything, in terms of setting up websites. Setting up a WordPress site is like nothing for them. It's an afterthought. Nothing. They build custom things. They build custom apps from scratch. These are your software engineers. They're classically trained. Some of them are self-taught. A lot of them have degrees. These are the people I learn from. Apart from what I'm doing now, I'm learning mostly from Claude now, my own projects. Then you have something called a vibe coder. Now, a vibe coder is someone who just relies exclusively on AI to develop things, to develop code. Whether that's through Replit, Lovable, Copilot, you name it, Gemini. You have a lot of these different AI tools that'll just build things for you. You sign up for your subscription, you build things for you, and you don't have to worry about learning about the tech. All you have to do is start to come up with ideas, and you're just feeding them ideas, and you know nothing about tech, you know nothing about architecture, you know nothing about caching, cookies, databases, HTML, CSS, NAS systems, storage, R2, You just don't know anything about that, and that's okay. So that's what you call a vibe coder. Someone that really knows nothing. They're just using these things to orchestrate, to build, and they're getting far. Some of them are getting far. Most of them are not. I'd say 90%, 95% of people are just spinning in circles, running through tokens. Some of them are actually learning, but I would say most of them are just having fun and using it like a video game and having fun. They're burning through tokens, and nothing ever is going to be enterprise grade. Nothing ever is going to generate any money. They're just having fun learning, and that's great. Nothing wrong with that. And then you have a third category, and this is a category that has never been named before until now. Maybe over the past 6 to 12 months it's been named. And that category is called an AI orchestrator. And that's what I believe I am turning into. An AI orchestrator. What is an AI orchestrator? Well, the way that I would define it is someone who's able to understand the technology to some degree, understand the stacks, what we call the stacks, the technology stack of what you're using, what databases you're using, what AI, LLMs, models you're using as the brain to fuel your creations, whether that's ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude. I'm using Claude mostly now. This person is in a new category because this person is not a developer and this person is also not a vibe coder. This person lies perfectly in between because this person is not just relying on these programs, these LLMs, exclusively. They're actually more engaged. They actually want to learn the architecture to some degree. They want to learn why something works the way that it does. They want to learn the best ways to store data. They want to learn the best hosting scenarios, whether it's Railway, Vercel, what have you. They want to learn these things, but they don't necessarily want to become a programmer. I don't want to become a programmer. I'll never pretend to be one. I'm not one. Can I hang with one in terms of speccing out a project? Can I explain very clearly what I want to happen and how I believe it should work? Yes, because I've been practicing that for 10, 15 years, working with developers. And they've been talking to me in a way where it forces me to understand because they're not talking to me like a child. Once they realize that you're not a fool, they're going to talk to you like you're almost on their level. And then you're going to have to level up to begin to try to understand what they're talking about. So I've had about 15 years of trying to level up, literally just my brain exploding, talking to engineers and spending hours and hours and months and years and over a decade learning. So when, I know I'm jumping around here, but that's kind of the point of these videos. It's almost like a journal. So let's jump to 2 years ago. Let's jump to summer 2022. More than 2 years ago, almost 4 years ago now. At the end of the summer 2022, I started using ChatGPT. And I resisted it for a while, but then I started using it and I was like, wow, powerful. So in 2022, I jumped into ChatGPT and I was using it for basic things, like coming up with names, helping me brainstorm, branding. I love the whole process of branding. That's a whole other thing we could get into one day. And I was using it to help me generate names for a new company I was starting at the time. That company became one of my main companies now called noblecrunch.com. I was using ChatGPT to brainstorm until I finally crystallized the idea of the name novelcrunch.com. So that was my entry point into AI. That was 2022. Within 6 months, I was already building little lightweight programs like generators. Basically, I was building these little programs that generated HTML inside the browser. No databases, nothing stored. When you store stuff, you need databases. But if you want things to be presented without a database, I just call that a generator. It just generates the data within the browser, and I use that data from there within the browser. Whether I print it out as a one-time PDF generator, or I use it to compute things, build a little calculator, all within the browser, no database, no storage. So I played with that for like several months, and I was like, wow, this is cool. Then maybe, by 2023, 2024, I was using AI to help me develop concepts in terms of design. I was using it to come up with little videos, stuff for Instagram. And then I would have to say in 2025 is when mid 2025 to Q4 2025, that's when I was like, hold on, Replit, what is this thing Replit? And Replit is the whole IDE, and I forgot, is that Integrated Developers Environment, IDE, I think it stands for, IDE. So basically, an IDE is essentially like a client run with the backing of an LLM that you could speak to in natural language, and then that client is going to produce code for you live in the browser, live in that quote unquote terminal. It's not a terminal per se. Um, it's creating your code, your ideas, and is presenting them to you visually right in front of you within the browser. That's an IDE. That's a little bit different from Claude Code when you're using the actual terminal. That's the CLI. That's a little different. We'll talk about that in another video. So I started playing around with Replit, and I started coming up with little MVPs. And I'll do my best to explain all these acronyms as I talk. The MVP is your minimal viable product. Your MVP is your basic proof of concept of whatever it is you're trying to build. So I spent like 6 months playing with Replit in mid 2025, maybe Q4 2025. And that just blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, for the first time in my life, I'm not running to go hire a full stack developer to help me develop these MVPs. Usually I would have gone and spent thousands of dollars. You know, there were times when I spent 15, 20, $30,000 with developers, no exaggeration, over the course of several months to develop things for me. But this was the first time I was able to be like, from end to end, develop an MVP on my own. So after spending several months with Replit and then coming into contact with Claude Code at the end, the very late moments of 2025, I was like, oh my God, I'm wasting my time and money with Replit. Why am I going to use Replit? Replit is like a toy. It's great, and you could build beautiful things with it. But for me, I realized I came to the conclusion that I'm burning through tokens unnecessarily with Replit, and I'm wasting time with Replit. Why use Replit? Replit's adding all these little attachments to your code. They're not allowing you to fully control your databases. It's their provisioned databases. It's their Google storage, to store your objects. It's not yours. You have limited control, and you're building something on their platform that's not even meant to be run on their platform on any sort of enterprise level. Their servers are going to sleep, and you have to wake them up, and you're losing time. So if you have someone on those servers, running in your application, and that server has gone to sleep, it has to wake up, and you're losing time. So those servers go cold. They're not on 24/7. I don't want to get too much into that. But basically I learned quickly that I was burning through so much money on Replit. And then Claude Code changed everything for me in the end of 2025. Once I set up Claude Code, I exported all my data out of Replit and started running it in Claude Code. Oh my God, it was like night and day. Claude Code for me was a lifesaver. It changed the game for me. It totally changed the game. Because now, instead of spending a week trying to fix a bug, I was able to fix a bug in a few hours, sometimes less. Working within Replit and Lovable and all these other IDEs, I was just spinning and spinning and spinning and trying to bite my own tail, thinking that it's food, but it wasn't. It was a learning experience. But once I got onto Claude Code, and this is not an advertisement for Claude Code. I'm not advertising it. I'm just speaking my truth. This is what the purpose of these videos is for. But once I got onto Claude Code, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Now, I didn't migrate everything immediately from Replit. I probably spent like 2 months, maybe 3 months of setting up parallel systems where I had everything still running from Replit. And I basically was building with Claude Code. Technically, what was I doing then? Oh, I know what I was doing. Okay, this is what I was doing. I kept everything on Replit, but I stopped using Replit IDE for development for about 3 months. What I had to do was I had to connect Claude Code to my Git repository. We're going to get into all that in future videos, but the Git repository is basically a structure It's basically a repository for your code base. That's where your code base lives, and anytime there's a change, the Git will record those changes in time. That's all Git is. It's just a place to store your code and track changes. That's really it. It just tracks the delta. The delta is the change from what happened last time to what you're committing this time. Whatever change in between is called the delta. It tracks the delta. That's all it does, Git. So, to be honest, I never used Git. I've known about it for 10 years. I've known about it just from talking with developers, but I never had a need to learn about it until 4 months ago, maybe 5 months ago. So I set up Git, I set up Claude Code. That took me like 6 hours, maybe. Now it would take me nothing. It would take me 20 minutes. Back then, it took me 6 hours. The whole thing took me 6 hours. Well, yeah, it took me 6 hours, but now it'd probably take me like half an hour. Well, maybe a little bit more involved, but let's just say half an hour to an hour to do a full migration. Maybe an hour. It took me 6 hours back then. I was stressed out. I was like, oh my God, what do I got to do? What database? Neon database? Pooled databases? Unpooled databases? Connection strings? env files? What? So I had to learn the process, and throughout the process I was learning through Claude was like, okay, this is how you do it, this is how it's set up. And granted, I didn't start from scratch. Like I said, I had 10-15 years of talking with developers, so I had a little bit of an advantage from someone who's starting totally from scratch, because I understood a little bit about the architecture already. I wasn't intimidated by the terminal. I wasn't intimidated by setting up databases. Yes, I was already doing that with WordPress for 10 years, working exclusively with WordPress sites. So I didn't start from scratch, but I kind of did in many ways. I never built anything with AI before up until 6 months ago, in terms of built something that I could actually use with a full stack database, everything front end. Yes, I was doing generators for 4 years, but nothing full stack with AI. So that's where we're at now. I am calling myself, and this is not a name that I invented. This is just a name that's out there. I don't know who invented it. I think it just came and formed on its own because it makes sense. AI orchestrator. I'm an AI orchestrator. I orchestrate AI. I think in layers. I think in dimensions. In order to orchestrate AI, you have to be able to think in layers and dimensions. Otherwise, you're just a vibe coder, in my opinion. If you're not thinking in layers and dimensions, you're not an orchestrator. If you're not thinking in systems, you're not an orchestrator. You may as well vibe code, which is fine, and have fun and build things. And who knows, you might even vibe code your way into $1 billion. I'm not going to deny that. In fact, that's going to happen. I'm sure that's going to happen. Right now, where I stand, I already still see my limitations. Yes, I could vibe code. I could code things, orchestrate things. Let's call it what it is. Orchestrate things. I'd say 80% of the way. Technically, have I built things that already are enterprise grade in terms of my own team using it and helping me make money? Yes. So I could argue that I have built enterprise grade things, but not really. I haven't built any full-blown SaaS products yet. And I already know, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, that I would still, everything I'm saying right now, I would probably still bring in an engineer. I'd built something to the 80% capacity that I believe that I could build it with Claude alone as a solo entrepreneur. I'm a solo entrepreneur. Yes, I have teams that do other things. I run warehouses, but ultimately I'm a solo entrepreneur. I wake up, I control my day. I don't report to anybody. I'm a solo entrepreneur. But now I'm an AI orchestrator, or you could even say an AI-driven solo entrepreneur. Not to get into all the names, but it's good to name things. It gives us context. It gives us framing. So that's where I stand. I'm building things. I'm orchestrating things. And the most important thing for you to understand, if you can relate to me at all from this video, maybe you're just learning about Claude Code. Maybe you're just learning about vibe coding. Maybe you're just learning about developing your own apps. This is the time. This is the time. This is the time to do it. This is a very exciting time, and I guarantee you that everything that's happening now is going to lay the foundation for what's to come. Because for what's to come, I believe that the people who understand AI and how to orchestrate AI to some capacity are the ones that are going to survive this transition. There's going to be a transition. It's already happening now. We're going to see a massive loss of jobs. We're already seeing it now. Every major tech company is laying off tens of thousands of people already. We're already seeing it. Your future will be secured in many ways with your understanding of AI and your ability to orchestrate AI within the context of your own business. So here's an example. Dental offices. Right now, you may have, depending on if it's a private office or a commercial larger office, you may have anywhere between 5 to 20 people at the front desk. I'm predicting that there'll be 2 to 3 people at the front desk within the next 10 years, maybe even sooner than that. And those 2 to 3 people will be the orchestrators of that office. They'll be orchestrating the processes, the data, the patient intake, all with the assistance of AI, controlling the AI, working with the AI, synergizing themselves with the AI, and 80% of the staff will be laid off. They'll be unnecessary, totally unnecessary. That's a perfect example. The entire medical industry is going to be shifted. It's going to be compressed. And all of the unnecessary, superfluous employees will be discarded, to put it bluntly. I'm sorry, but that's just the reality. I'm not sorry. That's the reality. So we need to prepare ourselves. That's one of the reasons why I'm making these videos, to be honest, in a selfish manner, because I'm trying to learn, and I know that articulating what I'm learning is going to help me. But I also understand that by articulating what I'm learning, the processes of the journey, it's also going to help you, for those that are interested. So when I learn something new, I'm going to share it. Maybe not every day, maybe not every second. I don't have time for that. But I do know that the future of my company is all going toward AI-driven orchestration. And that's why I want to set the tone, lay the foundation of this kind of visual journal of my process of where I'm going. I've always done this. I did this when I started my tea company. You know, at one point in time, I had probably the highest concentration of videos of yerba mate on the internet during my peak of this. 15 years ago, that's all I did. I just made videos online of this. Now I don't. I've transitioned to do many other things than just mate. Thank God I'm able to transition and do other things. I'm an entrepreneur at the end of the day. Yes, I'm still involved in this, but right now my main thrust is moving towards AI orchestration. I love it. It's the perfect storm that has erupted. My mind was perfectly set up to inherit this particular paradigm. It was like, boom, I don't need my full stack developer anymore. I don't need to contract everything anymore to developers. I could actually start the MVP myself. I could actually build things that are being used. There's tools that are being used every single day, 24/7 in my warehouses right now that I built on my own, solo, on my own. I have tools that are monitoring every single order that comes into my system and directing employees on what to do to take action on those orders every single day, 24/7. And I built that all on my own. I didn't pay a dime to any developer. Now, I'm not saying this to say, okay, you never need a developer, because I'll be the first to admit, I'm not an expert on any of these things. I'm not an expert on security. I'm not an expert on a million things. I'm just building what I'm able to build with the help of Claude Code. Claude is like my greatest teacher right now. Claude has been walking me through. I've been asking Claude a million questions, and I've figured out ways on how to collapse time. So everything I learn, I create knowledge bases in the Git repository, so then I don't have to necessarily learn it anymore. I use it to continue to reinforce my mental understanding, my mental landscape. That's the key. You have to build mental models of what you're building. Without the mental models, you're just a vibe coder. If you're able to inherit the mental models of how the architecture works, of how the skills MD file connects to the instructions MD file, connects to the Claude MD file, connects to the errors MD file, the changelog MD file, all these files that you need for every project, the invariant MD file, the invariant maps MD file. Once you understand how all these files work together, then you're able to say, okay, whoa, I learned something new today. Let me set that in stone. Let me add that to my knowledge base repository. Let me build a system that doesn't start from scratch every time, but is based upon templates. That's the key. Templates. You must build templates. It's not worth it trying to memorize everything you're learning. You need to build templates and structures. That's some of the things I'm going to be speaking about. I'm not necessarily going to be one of those people like, oh, here's all the files. Go download this. I mean, there's a million people that are already doing that. Go do that. For me, it's like I want to take you through my journey. I want to speak to you about how I understand how these things work, and then you could go and talk to Claude and say, listen, this is what I just learned. Maybe you could take notes when you're watching these videos, and then feed that to Claude. And then Claude is smart enough to know to extrapolate what I am speaking to you about, and then build those files and add them to your knowledge base and help you develop your own products, help you develop your own systems. What I'm talking about here is project agnostic. That's how you have to look at everything I'm talking about. Agnostic. This has nothing. Yes, I'll be talking about myself and the things that I'm building, but you got to be able to say, okay, how do I take the gems from that? How do I build templates around what Dave is saying? And how do I apply it to my own projects? It's not about trying to get the cheat codes. Yes, who knows? Full disclosure, I may say, hey, you want me to help you? Okay, pay me $250. I'll help you out for an hour. I'll help you set it all up. You want a consultation with me? Okay, that may happen. I may do that. Hey, text me right now. Call me right now. Shoot a message in this right now. I'll be more than happy to help you. Yeah, I'm going to charge you, though. Yes. Nothing's free. Of course I'm going to charge you. Like I said, I'm trying to start a business with AI. That's my next thrust. That's my next thing. Business with AI. So, yes, full disclosure, that's what this is about. And I learned so much online from YouTube, from all these other people. I continue to learn. But I'm just trying to come at this with truth. I'm not trying to be like, buy my product and you're going to be a millionaire overnight. All you got to do is this and you're going to be rich. All you got to do. No, I built my 7-figure business without AI. I built it on my own. Nobody helped me. I did it all on my own. I just hustled and learned and hustled and learned. I went from the 10,000 to 20,000 to 50,000. Then I've hit the 6 figures. Then I hit the 7 figures. Yes, I did it all on my own. I'm not going to get into all the numbers and all this stuff, all this shit. Fuck it. Shit. I'll curse. Why not? Let me not be polite. Let me speak like how I speak. So that's where we're at, guys. This is the introduction. This is the video I'm sure I'm going to have to link people back to for years. And that's why I was so precise about what I'm saying in this video. I'm just excited. I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about the transition that I'm going through. I'm excited about where I'm going with AI, what's happening, what I've already been able to accomplish on my own. I'm also excited to be able to ultimately hire developers to come in and polish things that I already created. I have plans to hire developers from 2 places, Buenos Aires and Sao Paulo. That's my plan. I believe that there's strong AI communities there, and I believe I could outsource developers for great prices there for the things that I need them for. So that's my target, ultimately, to create SaaS programs, create SaaS applications. Applications that it's one code base and people subscribe, just like ShipStation.com or Shopify. These are all SaaS products, what you call SaaS products. And that's where I'm heading. That's what I want to do. I want to create SaaS products. I want to come up with MVPs on my own. I want to ultimately bring in product engineers as needed, bring in designers as needed. I mean, if you could see my wall in front of me, there's tons of designs that are brought in designers to build. You know, I'm into art, I'm into photography, I'm into design, I'm into product development. And none of this stuff I've done on my own. I've always brought in contractors. I've always brought in the best designers I could find. I've always brought in the best engineers. I'm just the node in the middle. I'm just the entrepreneur in the middle. I'm orchestrating it all. But now I want to orchestrate AI. That's where I'm at. So again, my name is Dave Mate. This is the introductory video. Come along on this journey. If you have questions, I'll try to get back to you. I'll put my email below in the description of this video. All right, guys. Until next time, this is Dave Mate signing out. Salud. Drink some yerba mate. Circleofdrink.com if you want to try this stuff. Very powerful. Peace, peace.